Greetings and welcome to the Halloween edition of the Sliders Review. And I'm here today to talk to you about Underworld Awakening. So this movie came out in 2012 and it is not very good whatsoever in terms of a plot. And that's probably because it has went through like the ringer of rewrites. See, this was the original sequel, second movie to that of the first Underworld movie. But the first movie script was so long, they broke it up into two movies, Underworld and Underworld Evolution. Then somebody came up with the idea of going back to the Dark Ages and doing a prequel, which was really smart. Because after the second movie, there's really no point in continuing the Michael and Celine storyline. Like, their story is literally done. Like, nearly every lichened werewolf is like dead, and one entire coven of vampires is gone, and there's only like another one left. And you know, all the elders are dead, Alexander's dead, and it was just no point in continuing that story. Because, you know, after a while, the vampires and the werewolves are going to know the truth. Well, the werewolves already know it, but the vampires, actually, you know, some of them know it as well, but they act like they don't. But anyway, there was no point in continuing that story. But they decided to, you know, the movies make a lot of money. So they went back to the present day. And yeah, you can tell that this movie was rewritten multiple times. In fact, the only person from the original movies who was still working on it was like Len Wiseman. The other guys who normally help him write it, like, you know, Danny McBride and Kevin Greevox, they did not. And so this movie has like new screenwriters, and not only that, but it has not one, but two directors and stuff. And I've never heard of these people before. Then again, I never heard of the other ones either. And so, you know, after a good couple of like, wow, they should have just stopped, but they didn't. And, you know, then there was a speed bump in the form of Scott Speedman. So he's the one who plays Michael Corvin. And for whatever reason, he did not reappear in the franchise after a while. No, Scott Speedman. I think that's his name. Didn't I say that right? I don't know. Yeah, for whatever reason, he decided just not to return to like not only this movie, but like the franchise as a whole. And you know, that was a major problem because of the simple fact these movies revolve around like, you know, him and Celine, like, you know, like they're just one in the other and stuff, and you need him to move forward with like, you know, these movies and stuff. And there's only archive footage of him. Now, he was filming another movie that came out around this time called The Vow, but here's the thing, why wasn't he in Underworld Blood War that came out in 2016? Now, he did do two other movies in 2000. Well, you know, he did one movie in 2016 that came out that same time too. So maybe, just maybe, you know, he was busy, or maybe he just didn't want to come back for whatever reason. And so, like, because of that, they use archive footage of him, and they use a stand-in. And the stand-in is pretty freaking noticeable that it's a stand-in, because they actually show his face like point blank in the movie for like, you know, at least a good couple of seconds. So if they were gonna go the route of like casting the stand-in and showing the stand-in's face and not CGIing his face, why not just have the stand-in be the new Michael? They should have recast. And so, like, with the million rewrites they did and him not wanting to be in it, and of course, all the legendary characters are dead in this franchise, what were they gonna think of? So, what they thought of was making an action-packed movie where the humans now know about vampires and werewolves, the underworld. And the movie went more of a sci-fi kind of route with genetic manipulation and stuff, which they've tinkered with that in the first movie, just tinkered, but like they've never fully went that way. And because it's mostly been like a supernatural viral type thing. So I don't mind the genetic modifications because, like I said before, it was tinkered in the first movie and that's what made it so special. But it's kind of like, the thing they come up with is kind of like, it kind of negates and like, retcon the scientific aspect of the first movie. But then again, at the ending of the first movie, that kind of retcons it as well because it was mostly just them theorizing stuff about the different strains, the vampires and this and that. And like the Corvinus blood and making hybrids. But the thing is, they've done so many tests on like blood samples of the Corvinus strain and everything, and they have determined that the simple fact you need a pure source, the original virus that's hidden away in the descendants and stuff of the Corvinus strain. But then they completely retcon that at the end of the movie, which they probably just tacked that on or something like that. And so, it would have been nice to have the original writers and stuff. As for the direction, they did a solid job on action sequences. The only reason, and I do mean the only reason why I own this on DVD is for the action. The action is phenomenal and everything. And there's probably a reason for that. See, around the time the Underworld movies were getting made, so was Resident Evil. In fact, I think Underworld came out 1 year after Resident Evil. So those two was in competition with each other. They both have a female lead. They're both action stars. And they're both doing kind of like this fantasy sci-fi type thing. So those two movies was in direct conflict with each other, trying to one-up them. And the Underworld story is more about telling a story. Yes, they had action, but like action wasn't the primary focus. Except for kind of like the second one a little bit, but the second one was more story driven. Here they went for full on action. And and it was a lack of story. In fact, the story is so weak, it's embarrassing. Like it is truly embarrassing. I don't know how it made so much money to make another movie, and it got negative reviews. But then again, every movie in this franchise get negative reviews. And so with this being the original sequel and everything, yeah, it's kind of like events of the second movie do kind of play true, because like in the second movie, Kate, not Kate, but Celine and Michael started like doing it, because she's a hybrid now, and not only she's a hybrid, but she can be in the sunlight. And so we don't know what the heck those two have been up to since the second movie, but a couple of years have passed since the second movie. At least that's what we're led to believe. We know at least 12 years have passed since the second movie. That's a long time with no real information, and to only give us a little tidbits of dialogue about what happened. But as for what happened, like, does this movie, because it opens up with Celine and Michael on the run because humans are now hunting them down. They have now become the hunted instead of the other way around. And so we don't know how much time from them being hunted down by humans from the second movie has taken place. But if you recall, in the second movie, Michael goes to that restaurant, interacts with the cops, and then they start seeing him transform, and then, like, they start chasing him down. Then they find the vampire laboratory, the interrogation room, and they see like werewolves and all this other crap and all this weaponry and all this other mess, right? Well, they know now that there's something going on in the underworld. Like there are monsters and stuff, and there's a hidden world within their world. And so Alexander Corvinus, his job as a human immortal, he cleans up all the mess that his kids and descendants have left behind. He has a task force of humans that clean things up. He ordered his task force to silence the humans that witness all this, but he told them plain and simple, do not kill the humans. So they let them live. That was probably their biggest mistake. So how in the world did they silence them? Did they silence them with money, or like what? Did they threaten to turn them, or like what? So by letting them live, of course, they went and they ran to like, their authority, like, partners. They went to like the news media and all this other crap. And so word started to spread. And so it spread around the world. And more to the Resident Evil thing, when we see the beginnings after them being hunted, we see a news feed, and the news feed is very Resident Evil looking from both the video games and the movies, with the little static and like the screen and all this other stuff, and even the way they report on it and stuff. So Resident Evil did have like a factor in this movie looking and feeling the way it did. And also the more scientific route they took with the whole genetic modifications. So Resident Evil. And so like now in humans are terrified. So humans, as quickly as they was able to come up with ways of testing if you're like a werewolf or a vampire, and they created weapons that could take them down, more sophisticated than the werewolves and like the vampires have ever created. And I'm just kind of like, that's such a Resident Evil thing. And not only that, but when you see these like law enforcement military types, they're dressed in tactical gear that is very reminiscent of the second Resident Evil movie that the Umbrella Corporation wears, with those like big black helmets and those like weird futuristic looking like machine guns and everything. And so like the humans, they have like, it's weird because it's like weird how humans were able to create better weaponry than vampires and werewolves, and vampires and werewolves used to be human. So like for many centuries, vampires just used silver swords, silver blades, and silver bullets. It wasn't until they found out about UV bullets that they came up with silver nitrate bullets that can inject like silver liquid into your bloodstream and kill you. The vampires, they acquired some type of military weapon from a vampire that created UV bullets, basically a bullet with like a UV light in it, and it lights you up from the inside, killing a vampire. And that's basically their weaponry and stuff, other than that and explosions. But like the humans, my God, they have grenades with silver nitrate in it. It basically goes boom, and then there's silver dust there where killing werewolves and stuff. They have UV bullets. They have like pepper spray that shoots out like silver nitrate to reveal if you're like a werewolf and everything. And they have like UV lights to like harm vampires to see if you're a vampire. And it's basically martial law around the entire world. Everybody is taking up arms and everybody's being a vigilante, taking out like vampires and werewolves. And they did it with such ease. And the thing is that werewolves and vampires are hard to fight because they're super strong. But these humans are able to take them out left and right. Now, that right there, this entire premise is intriguing like I don't know what. Like, it is fascinating. And yeah, at some point down the line, we wanted to see this happen. but not so early in the franchise, because remember, this is the original sequel to the movie. And so with two movies set in the present, this is technically the third that where humans are now finding out about this and taking them out. And we finally get to see our very first female, or actually our second female werewolf and everything. The first time we saw one, she was just in werewolf form and couldn't turn human. In this second one, she is a human who's trying to transform but gets taken out by like I think a UV bullet or something like that, or not UV bullet, but a silver nitrate bullet, or like a grenade or something like that, particle dust. And but we finally get to see a female werewolf, with something we never really get to see in this franchise. And so like it's to the point where both vampires and werewolves are being hunted down to extinction. And like this is insane, but it's cool to watch. It's called The Purge. And what I would appreciate it more if the entirety of the movie was like this and not just the first couple of minutes. And so like now the problem is that of course Celine and Michael are being hunted down, so they try to get the heck out of Dodge and everything. And so like this had to have been a couple of years after like the second movie, because for whatever reason, Michael and Celine are now in America. They were never in America in the other two movies. They was either in Russia or Hungary or something like that. And so like for whatever reason they're there now. But Michael is technically an American. He was just studying abroad. So I guess maybe he wanted to go back home and live a life there. But like it is kind of weird that there would be like, you know, vampires and werewolves in America when most of the coverings and everything are like in other countries. So apparently there is a faction of them in America, because the movie takes place in America and stuff. Now, what's really odd is that both Michael and Celine are able to get taken down by the humans. And they're able to get taken down by, of course, getting shot. Michael falls into the water, and like they throw a ice bomb or something like that in the water. So it explodes, it knocks them out, and then they freeze. I'm just kind of like, so apparently those two are no longer super strong and invulnerable and everything. It's kind of like regular, like, hey, here's the thing. Both of those two are immune to weaknesses. So sunlight and silver does not affect them because they are two super hybrids and everything. He's half werewolf and vampire, and she is vampire, but with an immortal, like, not so much a god, but like an immortal superpower being, like, you know, blood in her. So she's like an uber vampire. And so I'm thinking they was able to get frozen, and like that's how they get taken down. Like that don't make no sense, because they're super strong and everything. That was the whole point of, like, you know, the first movie and everything, making hybrids to take on Victor, a vampire. And now you're telling me that like apparently all you do have to take them down is just like ice and crap. Like, nah, like that's just silly and everything. And so they're frozen for 12 years. 12 years. And he's frozen for the entirety of the movie until the end. And she wakes up in the beginning. And I'm just kind of like, it makes them look weak, especially when you see her later on in the movie taking people down and literally running up beside like a car and shoulder blocking it. She shoulder blocked a car and it went tumbling. That is how strong she is. And that is how strong he is. But now they're making them look weak, being taken out by humans and being frozen in crap. And it is just the most ridiculous thing ever. So that right there just puts a bad taste in your mouth when you're watching this movie. And it's just embarrassing because those two are like our leads, you know. But then it gets worse than that. It turns out she was pregnant and her baby was taken from her and experimented on. Now, for whatever reason, see, normally if a vampire or a werewolf bites you, you get their memories stuck in your head just jumbling around. They're like, you know, chaotic and everything. They're not consistent. Now, apparently, if you have a kid, then the kid is able, or you're able to see through their eyes, and they're able to see through your eyes. So whatever you see, they see. So it's kind of like a new genetic, like, you know, vision type thing, which is something that's never been established before. But you can just say, oh, okay, because both parents are hybrids and everything, and now the child is a super hybrid, then maybe that's why. Which, okay, whatever, I can buy that. So something happens where, like, you know, Celine wakes up and she busts out the thing. I forget how exactly she is able to wake up and bust out. Oh no, I remember. I think the her child tried to bust out or something like that, and it caused something to malfunction, and she was able to break out or something like that. And so, like, she busts out and she thinks she's seeing Michael's vision and stuff. She has no idea what's going on because she's lost 12 years of her life. But she gears up. And now we see Celine do something we've never seen her do, which also pisses me off in the movies. She is killing humans left and right. This is where most of the action comes from. She is slicing and dicing, throwing them through windows, everything, because she has finally had enough. This is so uncharacteristic of her in terms of humans, because all her life she spent protecting humans from werewolves and everything, and protecting them from like hybrids. And so for her to just go and start slaughtering people, all because they work in this laboratory, and you know, and of course humans been hunting down, like, you know, vampires and whatchamacallits. This is very uncharacteristic of her. Now it's in line with her killing werewolves because she went bloodthirsty and killing them because, you know, they killed her family. But you would think that after all these centuries of living, she would understand why the humans are doing what they're doing, exterminating her kind, because they fear. And, you know, and now she truly sees what she's been doing wrong all her life. Like when she went bloodthirsty and started killing werewolves and everything, it's what the humans are now doing to them. And so she later finds her daughter, and when her daughter has no idea what's going on, she just straight up bites her daughter to get her memories. And I'm just kind of like, dude, you didn't even ask. Now she's acting like Victor of all things. And her daughter, and this is what the craziest thing, I've mentioned this before, is played by Enda Isley. And she's supposed to be a 12-year-old girl in the movie, but she's actually 18 years old. And stuff, and she looks like a 12-year-old girl. Now they give India a accent, like a British accent, because, you know, because of Kate Beckinsale and stuff, who plays Celine, even though she was probably born in America and she shouldn't even have a British accent, but like, whatever. Now, the daughter of Celine and Michael, she's listed as Eve on, like, you know, Wikipedia, but technically she was never ever given a name in this movie. She's only known as, like, I think like Experiment 2 or something like that, and that was her designation, and that's the only thing she knows her name to be, because she was never named. So for the sake of, you know, not getting her name confused, I'll just call her Eve. And so they're being hunted down by, of course, the humans and stuff like that. And it's then Celine gets assistance from that of, like, you know, another vampire named David. And he's played by Theo James. And so she also sees like a cop, Detective Sebastian, because like a person got ripped to shreds by a werewolf and he knows what did it, but he won't tell his colleagues. His colleagues all like, look man, we ain't seen werewolves and vampires in years because we got rid of them and stuff. Because yeah, they haven't been seen in like forever, because they have literally to the point of extinction. And so like it turns out that they get chased by like werewolves and stuff. And when they get chased by werewolves, these werewolves are different. These werewolves, see, werewolves are literally, and I mean literally, to the brink of extinction, to the point where they're so scared they live underground in the sewers, and they've never ever went topside. So they've been like, getting diseases down in the sewers. They've been eating on rats. It's to the point where they no longer turn human because they're savage and they act like a pack of wild dogs, which is something Lucian always told them, this is how y'all are acting and don't act that way. In the first movie. So now they're literally to that point, and they're super skinny now. They don't even look the same. Oh, let me speak of something. The CGI is atrocious in this movie. The movie started to show its peak with the CGI in the third movie in terms of starting to be a downgrade. But this movie is just atrocious in its CGI. And also, there's no real true villain in this movie until later on, at the middle to end of the movie. Yeah, the humans are technically the villains, but it's just them trying to survive on a world that's been like taking them and stuff. And back to, like you say, Selene, like, harming humans and biting humans now to get their blood to get like stronger. In the first movie, it was stated that they use clone blood of humans because they don't want to drink real blood. But now in this movie, see her drinking human blood just to get powerful and everything. And of course, she's killing them left and right. So it's really sad that the werewolves have gotten to the point where they just act like dogs. They don't even like come topside and everything. And so when Selene is taken to like David's coven because Eve is hurt because she's been bit by like a lichen and stuff, but she's not healing for whatever reason. And so like when that werewolf bit her, he should have then turned into like a hybrid or something. But like here's what's so weird. David's father, Thomas, is the head of the coven. And I'm just kind of like, well, hold up now. Since when is there a third coven? In these movies, it has always been stated that there are 3 vampire elders, and they rule all the vampires. There is one coven, but they could not get along, so they split it in 2. Amelia went her own way, and Marcus and Victor went their way, combining together. So in the movie, we never get to know much about Amelia because she's just kind of like the most mysterious person in the entire franchise. She popped into the first one only to die. In the second one, she was only there to do the action scenes of the prequel. And then after that, she just disappeared again. So it's like this dude literally says it's his coven. So what the world is he talking about? Well, it is later revealed in the 5th movie that this is technically Amelia's coven. And that is Amelia's husband, who's a heck of a lot older than her, by the way. And it is found out in the 5th that David is actually the son of Amelia. But we don't know this in this movie yet. We won't find out until the next movie. And so, like, it's kind of like, oh, so this is where Amelia's been hiding out the entire time in like America. But her coven is, for whatever reason, is underground. Must be like an underground safe house. And so when it's underground, it looks like all caves. And it resembles that of the 3rd movie of like their castle and stuff and like caves and all this other crap. And the way they dress is way too old fashioned. So it's kind of like they're trying to pull from all 3 movies, even to the point where the opening up, you need a key, and the key is in the same shape as the key in the 2nd movie that was a necklace attached to this bigger necklace looking thing. That should not be possible because nobody knew what that thing was except for two people. And it's there, like, this dude, he doesn't want Celine and her daughter there. He's pissed because he knows who Celine is. So does David. She is the one who has killed two vampire elders. She is the one who fell in love with a werewolf who later turned into a hybrid. And, they hate her behind. But this is what's so confusing. How in the world do they know that? Because all the vampires from the first movie died, except for Craven and his people. But all of them died that went down there with Victor. They died by the hands of the werewolf, Celine, and that of Michael. And so, like, they have no idea she killed Victor. Then you get to the second movie that takes place seconds after the first. And in that movie, Craven goes back to his mansion and he goes to kill Marcus, the second elder, and actually the last elder living. And so him and his people don't have time to go tell nobody what Celine did. And then him and his men are killed within seconds after meeting Marcus. So, because of that, and then after that, Marcus burnt down his coven. And it's stated that, he destroyed it, and I'm assuming all the vampires there died. So, who the heck spilled the beans that Celine killed two of, like, the elders? Because the humans that work for Corvinus, they wasn't going to tell nobody. Not to mention, where are his human subjects at? The ones in the second movie, yes, they died, the one that lived on the boat. But there are tons more all around the world cleaning up the mess of vampires and werewolves. So where the heck are these humans at? I don't get that. Like, where the heck are they at? They should have stopped the purge and everything and should have cleaned up the mess. And they're never mentioned again. So the people in the lab, they want the girl back. And so they track them down and they find, like, the place, and they just start, like, shooting the place up, and they just start, like, turning the werewolves and killing them. Because it turns out half of the people who work in the lab are actually werewolves. There's a twist plot, and they turn out to be the villains. For the first time in this entire franchise, the werewolves are now the bad guys. It was always the vampires, but nobody knew that. See, the first movie everted our expectations. We assumed the werewolves were the bad people and the vampires were the good ones, but it turned out the other way around. Then Marcus went all crazy trying to free William in the second movie. And then in the third movie, once again, the vampires are the bad people because the werewolves were always slaves to that of the vampires since the third and the first movie. It's always been stated that. And so, like, and because werewolves were already, since the first movie, nearly exterminated by the vampires, there's only a scattering of them. That's why they wanted to turn into hybrids to protect themselves from the vampires. And it's jacked up that they would turn the good guys now villains. I get it, they had to do something different. But they had the humans as the bad guys. We didn't need this extra plot twists and stuff because it's messed up because they was literally bred into slavery just to build crap for the vampires and protect them during the daytime from the humans in the Dark Ages. This is like turning Black Americans that were slaves who were villainized and everything and victims, this like major victims, this is like making them the villains in somebody's retelling and making the white people from back in the old days the good guys. Do you see what I'm saying? Because that's so messed up. Like, that would not fly if you were to make black slaves villains and the white people from back in those days the heroes. And this is what this movie did. Because the thing about the Underworld series, there are two themes in here. Romeo and Juliet story, from like the vampires and the werewolves secretly falling in love with each other and not allowed to be with each other, and prejudice and racism. The vampires hate the werewolves only because they're dogs and everything. They look different than them. They're savage and everything. They hate that. And that's always been a huge thing that's been overlooked in the underworld movie franchise. Because people only think of the Romeo and Juliet thing. And so that is just a disgrace. And this is why this is another reason why this movie sucks. And so it turns out, some of the werewolves have like survived and they've been working in that lab. And they're more high society sophisticated. We've never seen werewolves in high society. They've always had to live underground. Even in the first movie, because they had to hide from that of the vampires and stuff. And so it was unnecessary making them the villains. And so what have they been up to? Well, evolution, of course. They want to be bigger and stronger with no weaknesses. They want to be hybrids. They don't want to die from silver no more. They want to be invincible and stop having the humans kill them, of course, the vampire. Now, one thing that never made no sense is during the purge, why didn't vampires and werewolves be like, yo, we're enemies, but we need to chill and, survive from the humans and stuff? They never did that. They're still hating each other till this day. And so this doctor guy, he's the one who's been creating hybrid, DNA from that of Eve. He's been taking her blood with the blood strain of Corvinus, the blood strain of Michael and Celine, who are hybrids, and he's trying to make these ultimate werewolves. Now, Eve, she does have a hybrid face. It's slightly monstrous and slightly human looking with pale skin. And this is how Celine, in my opinion, should have looked in the second movie, instead of just leaving Kate the way she is. And the only reason because her husband at that time was the one doing all this stuff, creating this stuff, Lynn and everything. So he wasn't going to turn his wife into no monsters. And so throughout this movie, there's been this one werewolf who's like what they call the Uber Lycan. He's just a werewolf that's the size of a house. And that's just so stupid. And his father's been manipulating his DNA to make him that big. And he only needs one more injection and stuff like that. And soon he won't be harmful to that. Well, he won't be harmed by silver. His dad has even injected himself. But when his dad injects himself, he turns different than that of his son. Instead of being a house-sized werewolf, he turns into a werewolf, but of a different and unique design. You know how like older werewolves in movies had that human body, but they just attached hair and different skin color to like a human body, and then their face is kind of shaggy but in a monstrous kind of look? He has that appearance, which is really cool, but he looks completely different than any other werewolf in this movie franchise. But you can always say, okay, since he's been messing around with DNA, then that's why he looks the way he does. And so, oh, by the way, when they got attacked, David died, like literally died. So what does Celine do? She does this weird thing. She cuts his stomach open. She cuts her wrist. She puts her hand in his stomach, reaching and finding his heart and letting her slit wrist blood drip on his heart, and she's able to bring him back from the dead. And like, this isn't the first time she's done this, because vampires can come back from like the dead and everything, because she brought Michael back, but he's a hybrid. That's the only reason why he came back from the dead. Other vampires should not have done this. So now they're making her act like she has God blood in her and she's able to heal and bring the dead back to life. But here's the problem. She didn't bring nobody else back to life. That whole vampire coven got slaughtered except for maybe 5 people. Everybody else is dead. She did not bring none of those people back to life. Only the man who is her ally in this movie. That don't make no sense. So why didn't she? And then you think she'll be bringing more vampires back to life since their people are getting exterminated. Oh, I forgot to mention, she has a human ally, Detective Sebastian. Basically, after, like, she saw that he didn't want to turn the vampires and the werewolves in, she finds him, and then we get, like, this weird story about how, like, he had a wife that was a vampire. Now, he's just added into the movie to add diversity because, like, these movies always have, like, one black person in the movie, and just like with everybody else, they always die. But they make sure the black people always die. But then everybody dies in these movies, except for Celine, Michael, and that of Erica. But Erica's not allowed to be in these movies no more because Kate didn't want her in these movies no more. But anyway. There's really no point for this cop being here. He doesn't really add nothing, but basically he helps her break into the laboratory, which she could have done on her own. And it's very much like a Resident Evil type, like, breaking into like the laboratory. And Resident Evil really messed with these movies. So while she is there, she actually finds Michael in hibernation, still frozen and everything. Instead of freeing him, busting him open, she just shoots one bullet into the glass, letting the air come out so it can heat up. But why didn't she bust him out? And that's because the actor isn't there. So that just makes it a stupid reason why she did that. And it was like, they should just say, oh, he's in another place or another country or something. So of course we get the huge fight and everything. David has shown up to help out. The cop dude tries to help but get his butt kicked. And it's Celine and her daughter fighting both those hybrid werewolves. And still, that Uber werewolf looks terrible in CGI. Another thing that looks terrible in CGI is when they was down in the coven and they was fighting the werewolves, David had these two whips. And they were all CGI whips. It looks so fake and digital because they were trying to be artsy with the way they like playing around with the whips and stuff. And I'm just kind of like, they couldn't use a real whip. In the first and third movie, they used real whips, and it looked real. Now they're using CGI where it's just like floating around everywhere and without that digital crappiness. And it's just like, what happened? This is the fourth movie in the franchise. They have more money and stuff. And everything shouldn't look this bad CGI wise. Well, of course, after the huge battle, like, Celine killed, well, actually the daughter kills the father werewolf hybrid and everything because she's just like her father, like really, like she can just take somebody's head and rip it off. Now, the daughter, her acting's good in this movie. I've talked about her before. I've seen her in a couple of stuff. Some things she's good in, some things she's not. She's good in this movie, but she doesn't talk much because, she has to fake a British accent. And I guess maybe her acting wasn't that good dialogue-wise, so they probably didn't have her say much probably or something like that. But acting-wise, it was good. But all she ever does in this movie is stand in one place, sit in one place, lie down in one place, look like she's about to cry, screams, and has a little bit of dialogue and just rips werewolves to shred and everything. And so, another thing that's weird that kind of breaks continuity is that when she was wounded and she was at the vampire's place, they were trying to heal her and they didn't know how to heal her because they're all like, her scars aren't healing from the werewolf bite. So why isn't she healing? So then the woman examines her and she's all like, I've never seen anything like this before. Where is her scar marks from like her being bit by like a vampire and stuff? And so it turns out, because she was the firstborn hybrid. Now here's the problem. There are pure blood vampires. Like Amelia and Thomas made that of David. So he came out as a vampire. Like even because all vampires and werewolves are human and they get turned. So with that said, only the ones that was like human get bit. But there are people who have offspring. Sonia was an offspring. And so there are no like bite marks from when you get turned. So I don't know what the world this woman was talking about. Not only that, but they're acting like they never seen a baby vampire before that was born a vampire. It's like the first three movies don't exist. And the continuity and the logic is just thrown out the air and everything. I don't get it. So then, not only that, but even if you were to get bit, you're still not going to have no teeth marks in you because they're going to heal. And so they're all like, oh, she needs blood. Give her some blood. And like, duh. Everybody knows that in these movies. Oh, Lord Jesus. Anyway. Celine kills the Uber like, Lycan, but it should be pretty hard because Silver does not affect him. So how does she do it? She takes a grenade, she punches it in his stomach, and it explodes him from the inside, which is really cool. And it's really the only way that could kill him because he can heal very easy and stuff. And so after that, the daughter sees Michael's vision. He's on the roof now. He's escaped. He didn't go looking for nobody inside the building when he's hearing all the gunshots and the firing and stuff. So he goes on the roof. And so they go on the roof, but he's not there. He has now left for whatever bizarre reason. And it's just kind of like, why didn't he stay there? Why didn't he look for somebody? Oh, because the actor's not there. So now they go on a hunt looking for him. And it ends. Lord Jesus have mercy, this movie's plot is about as stupid can be. The real villains of the movies don't even show up until like the end with a huge twist. Also, where are the humans at? The humans were made to look like the bad guys early in the movie, but then after the beginning of the movie, in the middle and the end, the humans are no longer hunting down werewolves and vampires because they don't think they exist anymore. But people can literally see werewolves running in the streets and jumping on cars. So where are the humans to exterminate them? This movie has no logical sense. And it reminds me of Resident Evil Apocalypse, where the zombies show up in the beginning of the movie, but then after that, they kind of like disappear because Nemesis shows up. And so, like, then there is now the problem of the fifth and last movie. Scott Speedman still does not want to show up and does not appear. And so they cannot find Michael. He's just lost somewhere. Then now there's the problem of Eve. Eve does not appear in the fifth movie, even though she was made to be of importance to that of the fourth. When people ask her, hey, why weren't you in the fifth movie? She simply says, ask Kate. Now, that's either shade or maybe because Kate Beckinsale would know because, her husband's the one who's like, producing these things and writing these things. So maybe she would know, or maybe she has something to do with that. Because once again, Sophia, I forget her last name, literally says she's not allowed to be in these movies because Kate Beckinsale went to Lynn and is all like, I don't want her in these movies. So we don't know why certain people are not showing up in this franchise. And like I said before, there has been drama in this franchise. Now, as for the rest of the fifth movie, I don't remember it. I only saw it once. I can't remember if it was good or not. All I know is that once again, Celine gets like a new power. Her hair turns like kind of like white blondish or whatever. And everybody, it's like snowy time and she's wearing like, a snow coat and stuff. That's all I remember. And so, because of that, in 2018, Kate Beckinsale was just like, you know what, I'm done with this franchise. I've done all I can with this franchise, and I'm not returning. And so, I remember with the fifth movie, she hadn't signed her contract yet. And they was going to make the David actor the lead in the movie. And I did not want that to happen because this is a female-led like franchise where the female is the main hero. And to have a man take over be jacked up. Plus, I don't like the character of David all that much. He's an okay character, he's an ally, but there's nothing else to him and stuff. And so you can tell with the fifth movie and the revelation that Amelia is his mom, Dave was trying to move that franchise in more of his direction. And so like... But then in 2021, Kate has literally said, yeah, she wouldn't mind returning to the franchise. Why? because sadly Hollywood has kind of dropped her. Now I like Kate Beckinsale. I think she's an amazing actress. She is gorgeous, and not only that, but she's an amazing action star. But Hollywood has kind of dumped her because she's been in a couple of flops and bombs. She wasn't the main lead actress. Because here's the thing about the underworld movies. The underworld movies are always getting butchered by critics, but they make tons of money. And after, like, in between making these movies, she's done some other things. She was in Van Helsing with Hugh Jackman. That movie bombed. She was in Click with Adam Sandler, but that did pretty good. But I don't know if it bombed, but it did pretty good. But then she was in Total Recall with Jessica Biel and whoever that dude who played Bullseye in the first Daredevil movie. Colin Farrell or something like that. And that movie bombed. So Hollywood was just kind of like, you know what? Maybe we'll just put you to the side and not hire you from some stuff. So then she started doing more TV stuff, and that didn't work out for her. She had a show on Amazon. I tried watching the first episode. It was so dry and boring, and it got canceled. Then she was in a dark comedy on Paramount Plus, but not only did that get canceled after one season, but then they took it off their streaming site. So I have no idea if it's good or not because I just now found out about it. And it's completely taken off their site. And so, she hasn't had the best luck in movies and TV shows. So Hollywood has kind of just let her fade away, which is sad because she is a great actress. And the thing is, she's been in tons of movies before Underworld, but the American audience didn't know who she was. And it was Underworld that really let people know who she was. She's up there with Mila Jovovich. Because Mila doesn't get that much credit as being a great action star and a female lead and stuff. And so it sucks that Hollywood has kind of dropped her. But when the first Underworld movie came out, I remember I kept looking it up on the internet to see what it's all about. And all I could read was the scandal between her, Michael Sheen, and Lynn Wiseman, because Lynn Wiseman was a married man at that time, and she was with Michael Sheen, and then something happened. There are rumors that they had the affair, but they also say, oh, it never happened years later, but her and Michael broke up, and then her and Lynn got married, only for now her and Lynn to be divorced. And her and Michael get along now because, they have a kid together, so they have to be. But every time you hear Kate Beckinsale name on the internet now, it's only because of some new young guy she's dating. And because you know how the media is, they always want to know who people are dating. Because she dated Pete Davidson of all freaking people. And so she's a sexy 50-year-old woman. She is sexy, you know what I'm saying? But the media is just kind of why is she always dating these younger men and everything? Well, there's nothing wrong with dating a younger person. There's nothing wrong with dating an older person. But that is now what she is known for. And it's quite a shame because she has so much more to offer to the entertainment world. And, Hollywood is not using her the way they should, and it's quite a shame. And it's quite a shame how this franchise has just died. The third movie was flawed. The second movie was ripped apart by critics. The fourth and fifth just sucked. The anime, in my opinion, was just kind of odd and should have been more. There was nothing to the anime. There was really nothing to the anime. There was no real story other than her hunting down three brothers and stuff. And it really messed the third one up when they turned her and Michael into bad people, in my opinion. Hunting down werewolves that led up to, The Purge. And this was all Lynn Wiseman's stupidity and everything. And he talked about trying to make a TV series, but there's nothing going forward. Which they could make a TV series. It would be low budget. But they could do it. They just won't be able to have all the great architecture that the movie's known for. Which was weird that they set the movie in America in the fourth movie, because this movie is known for having some outstanding architecture from other countries and stuff. And that's weird that Amelia's Coven would be in America. And they still have the British accents and like all this other crap, you know? But, you know, it is what it is, and this franchise is now sadly dead. Now, wasn't that spooky? Alright, well, I shall talk to y'all later. Bye.